Hi everyone, this will be part 3 of our video series in which we will be looking at some profound reasons for why September 23 through 24 this year will see the pre-tribulation rapture of the body of Christ. One very good reason for this that I want to first mention is that dozens of Christians, perhaps even hundreds of Christians, are now coming out and sharing online how the Lord revealed to them personally and supernaturally at some point in the past, sometimes many years ago, that the Feast of Trumpets 2025 will see the rapture of the church. I have been intensively watching for the rapture for a number of years now and have never seen anything like this in terms of powerful personal testimonies regarding knowledge of a specific time. Of course, every year there are some people who announce that the given particular year must be the year, or who say this year or that year in the future must be it, which is fine. But as far as I can tell, 2025 has been truly unusual. The sheer number of truly supernatural testimonies recently saying Feast of Trumpets 2025 is Rapture season seems far more compelling than usual. There seems to be something of a real consensus this time, and if you watch the part 1 video in my series here, you will see exactly why I have long expected just such a testimony situation to arise just prior to the actual time of the rapture. But I want to get that reason for why September 23 through 24, 2025 will see the rapture out of the way up front, because this video isn't especially about that. While this reason is an important one, it is widely known already. What I especially want to share here has a prerequisite, part 2 of this video series. If you have not watched that already, go check it out. It will only take 13 minutes or so to watch. I'm going to continue here just assuming you have already watched that video and try not to re-explain things here that I explained there. Okay, so, do you recall the Revelation 12 sign which appeared in the sky on September 23, 2017 and was widely noted and discussed all over the world? If you are not aware of this or know little about it, please see the 3-minute video about that sign, which I have provided a link to in the description box. I want to explain how, if we had known back in 2017 what we now know about the Sexta-septa Millennial Construct presented in my part 2 video, then we would have been able to understand via the Revelation 12 sign when the rapture would actually take place. Recall that the Genesis 1 prophecy shows that if Jesus died and rose somewhere between 30 and 34 AD, as historians generally agree he did, then the final millennium of the redemption story would have to begin sometime within 2030 to 2034 AD, and the rapture would have to take place around 7 years before, that is, around 2023 through 2027 AD. Because a years-long gap between the rapture of the church and the beginning of the tribulation is widely seen as untenable for various prophetic reasons, the Genesis 1 prophecy reveals the futility of expecting the pre-tribulation rapture much before 2023. As it happened, though, many people were highly expectant of the rapture happening right with the Revelation 12 sign on September 23, 2017, one day after the end of Feast of Trumpets that year, apparently due to lack of awareness of the full prophetic implications of Genesis 1. Now, I'm not saying that expectation was a bad thing. In 2017 or shortly before, there arose a movement of people intensively watching for the rapture, and many of them have been intensively watching ever since, which I'm sure is as the Lord would have it. I will tell you, though, that since 2011, when I began to understand something about just when Jesus would come, I knew he would not return for us much sooner than 2023, and I only began to intensively watch for the rapture of the church days before the Feast of Trumpets 2022. Let me be clear, though, none of us knew back in 2017 what we know now. So in the remainder of this video, I want to just imagine with you how we might have reasoned in 2017 if we had known then what we know now. Well, as noted already, we would have expected the rapture of the church sometime between 2023 and 2027, no earlier at least than sometime in 2022, assuming a rather substantial gap between rapture and tribulation commencement, if indeed in 2022. The appearance of the Revelation 12 sign would have alerted us to the fact that the beginning of Revelation 12, the passage, was actually highlighting a particular season of the year. Now, why do I say that? As it happens, something very similar to the Revelation 12 sign occurs in the heavens with some regularity. Every year, the constellation Virgo, the woman, ends up clothed with the sun, while the moon is positioned at her feet. However, in modern times, by which I mean here at the end of the world, the sun is in Virgo only from mid-September until the end of October each year. At some point every month, the moon ends up positioned at Virgo's feet. You can see all this for yourself using the stellarium map. So there is a yearly foreshadowing and/or reminder of the Revelation 12 sign here at world's end. But it appears only sometime between mid-September through late October, the fall feast season. Therefore, Revelation 12:1-5, well known as one of the Bible's most important representations of the pre-tribulation rapture of the body of Christ, symbolically underscores this season, the fall, and associates it with the rapture. Of course, we would have known back in 2017 that while Christ fulfilled the first 4 yearly Jewish feasts by the events especially connected to his first advent, Christ will fulfill the last 3 yearly Jewish feasts, all of which occurred in the fall, by the events especially connected to his second advent, here at world's end. The first of those big end-time events is the pre-tribulation rapture of the bride, at which time the trumpet of God will sound, 1 Thessalonians 4:16. The first Jewish feast of the fall season is the Feast of Trumpets, the main feature of which being the blowing of trumpets. And we would have noticed that the Revelation 12 sign fully manifested just 1 day after the end of Feast of Trumpets 2017, and would have seen this as confirmation that indeed the rapture of the church will take place on Feast of Trumpets some year. At this point, it would have been very natural for us to ask the question, does Feast of Trumpets occur on a September 23, as the Revelation 12 sign did, in any of those years possible for the rapture, years 2022 through 2027? And some Googling would have quickly shown that yes, in 2025, the Feast of Trumpets is September 23 through 24. Further Googling would have shown us that, in fact, from 2006 to 2035, the only year in which Feast of Trumpets contains a September 23 is 2025. The fact that the simple English geometry of the phrase Feast of Trumpets equals 923 points to just 1 year, 2025, among years 2006 through 2035, if it points to any. Now, with curiosity piqued, we would have then wondered, is there significance to an 8-year warning? For if the rapture truly is to take place on September 23 through 24 of 2025, then the Revelation 12 sign was precisely an 8-year warning sign of it. At this point, we would have recalled that the Greek gematria value of the Greek name translated Jesus famously equals 888, and in the book of Revelation, Jesus often appears either in the midst of or immediately following some significant 7. Jesus is number 8, as is further evidenced by his resurrection on the day of the week following the 7th. Of course, the Revelation 12 sign is a very special warning about the coming of Jesus. Exactly 8 years between sign and the coming would definitely be so very perfect. Beginning to feel certain that we had actually discovered the true season of the rapture to be Feast of Trumpets 2025, we would have been inspired to further dig into what else might be special about September 23 through 24, 2025, to make it the divinely chosen time for the rapture. Here are some things we could have discovered as icing on the cake, so to speak. On September 23, 2025, Israel happens to be 77 years old, and 9 plus 23 plus 20 plus 25 is 77. The word September comes from the Latin septem, meaning 7, and was originally the 7th month of the Roman year. So in that original sense, September 23 is 723. Interestingly, there is a total lunar eclipse in 2025 on September 7. In the original sense, that date is 7/7. Furthermore, that eclipse will manifest such that 77% of people on planet Earth will be in geographical position to see all of the total phase of it, according to space.com. Of course, being the beginning of Feast of Trumpets on the Hebrew calendar, September 23 is the first day of the 7th month, and there are even more 7s that we may be led to notice. Let a month be considered the biblical month, which was counted as exactly 30 days for all prophetic purposes. For example, 1260 days divided by 42 months of Revelation 13:5 is 30 days per month. Now, on the one hand, September 23 is the 266th day of 2025. 7 times 30 plus 7 times 7 plus 7 equals 266. This means that 7 biblical months, 7 weeks, and 7 days into 2025 is the end of September 23. At this exact point, as an added bonus, there are just 99 days left in the year. That reminds me of Jesus saying, if someone has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, won't he leave the 99 on the hillside of heavenly Mount Zion, perhaps, and go and search for the stray, out lost in the tribulation, if you will? Matthew 18:12. Of course he will. On the other hand, the beginning of September 23 is 0.7260 of 2025 complete. At that point, the year is 72.6% complete. Why is this so special? Famously, the Greek word harpazo, translated caught up in 1 Thessalonians 4:17, the Greek word from which the word rapture descends, is located in Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible by the reference number 726. Having reasoned thusly back in 2017, I imagine we would have been quite confident that the rapture of the church will take place on September 23 through 24, 2025. Of course, as the saying goes, hindsight is 20/20. Or shall we say in this case, it's 2025.